What's happening, folks? Very happy to be back with everybody. Excited about another Speak Your Mind Paramedia activity show. This one titled The Afterlife. I think you all going to enjoy this one. Just getting everything set up, ready to go. And you know how we do this. We will get this thing started now. What's happening, everybody? Welcome to another great Monday evening. I'm your host, Derek Stroman. I'm excited about tonight's show titled The Afterlife. It's going to be a lot to come up in discussion here. But before we really get going, let me bring in my colleagues. You know them very well. We have Timberwolf, this time in the middle. Timberwolf, you're usually on the far essential right of my screen. And Travis is usually set up in the middle, but hey, doesn't matter which order we're in. I'm just glad you gentlemen are here. How's everybody doing this evening?
I'm good.
Good.
I'm running late as always, but I'm good. It's a Monday.
Hey, look, we hustle, man, to try to get to these shows. Life is busy. 7 o'clock, 7:30, 8 o'clock, it's the new 5 o'clock, right? I mean, it is what it is. As long as we get the show going, to me, it doesn't really matter what time we get started. As long as we can put something out there, some kind of content for our viewers. And more than that, for me, it's for us to, socialize a little bit, talk about how our week and weekend has been, and prepare for the week that's in front of us, because it is Monday, and you know how Mondays can be from time to time. So
Absolutely.
I'm glad everybody's here, and we're here in the original normal life, not the afterlife, not yet. And I hope maybe I can meet you gentlemen maybe one day, once again in the afterlife, So, I mean, hey, some people believe in these kind of things. Some people don't. I mean, I'll start with you, Timberwolf. I mean, the afterlife. And before we really get going, I see, some people are already commenting. But listen, we want you all to talk about your experiences. Have you had any afterlife style experiences in your life? Something where you thought of it or you dreamt it up and it felt real. Um, and there were signs after you woke up that something a little more happened than just a normal dream. Because I think in some people's cases, when you actually have a real experience of the afterlife, you bring something back, right? Am I right about that, Tim? Or I mean, help me out here, man. I'm fishing, bro. I'm fishing. I haven't had any experiences like that, so.
Well, to be honest, if you, it, it's my belief that we all, live several lives. I mean, we don't normally remember them, but there's sometimes when certain events happen in a particular life that make you remember a prior life.
Mhm.
And that's been documented many times all over, around the world, with both, just average Joes like us, but also with celebrities. Celebrities have come forth. Like I've mentioned her name in the past, and Shirley MacLaine is basically the celebrity tip of the spear when it comes to true, real spiritualism and seeing beyond the veil and experiencing beyond the veil. The amount of books that she's written and the experiences that she's had has been very, like, kind of very prolific, and gives people hope that there's something beyond, and it doesn't necessarily have to do with heaven or hell, which again is a human being's construct.
Hmm.
Often, because I don't really fully believe in a heaven or a hell, but I 100% believe that there's something else. And it was when I had a near death experience, and then when I was out of my body, that afterwards I had a vision of a prior life. And it's not much to it, it's very, very vague, but the imprint is there. Just like
Yeah.
my mother knew from her prior life how she had died in her prior life, because she in this life she was deathly afraid. She had a phobia of being held underwater, and because she had a vision of her prior life where somebody had murdered her and held her underwater and like forcibly like
Wow.
drowned her. So she was very frightened of the water. She didn't go in deep water. She stayed shallow. She stayed away from anybody who was doing any kind of horseplay. It wasn't a childhood phobia so much as a kind of a spiritual phobia because of the residual that she had from a prior life. And all of us, I feel like we all do have residuals. You have a residual. Uh,
Hmm.
Travis has a residual. We all have residuals of the life we lived prior, and others. But the strongest one would be, in my opinion, clearly the one that you had most recently. And again, it's just my belief, and I'm not here to detract from somebody's belief that there is a heaven or that there is a hell. It is, and that is the freedom of it. And I would never, again, like I stated before, I would never, disregards, somebody's belief or try to change them or over to my side. I would only offer up a speculative, kind of, experience uh, to people, and letting them know that when the thing that happened to me happened, it was the most peaceful thing that I'd ever felt. It was the quietest. It was the most peaceful. It was the warmest. Any way you can describe, you know, Jollity, if I'm saying that properly. You know,
Jollity.
yes,
That's a tough word. Try to say that three times fast.
yeah, Jollity. So, so, and I've heard many stories of people who had a drowning experience or was knocked unconscious into a coma, and what they had
Mhm.
experienced. We've all heard these stories, we've seen them on TV.
Sure.
We've heard personal experience, stories from personal experience on your different shows in the past. Like I'm sure
Sure.
with uh, Warrior Spirit and whatnot. So,
Yeah.
just from my standpoint, I think that there is a like a reincarnation uh, kind of event that happens for everybody again and again until we finally learn enough to where we are, we, for lack of a better word, enlightened, and
Right.
we're ready to ascend to that next level step.
So I wanted to jump in right there because you already touched on some things that could really open up conversation to actually go in a few different directions. And one thing in particular you said, I definitely want to go back to that because I agree with you and I believe the same thing. But before we get into that, I just want to reach out to Bobby Carbos. Hey, thanks. Big shouts out to you. And of course, for your comment to me about looking pretty good there. I'm working on this. Thank you, thank you. I'm trying to get in shape and everything. I want to keep up with Travis Short. You know what I mean?
Yes, that's what it's about. Yeah.
But all jokes aside, Bobby has had an experience that he's actually telling us about right now. He says that he had a dream one night of the afterlife with the good and evil uh, be divided. The next day, he says he picked up a picture that was down at an auction. He picked up a picture that was down at an auction, and it completely depicted the scene from his dream. So, I mean, these are the kind of things that we're talking about, then, right? Timberwolf, where it's something that happens, and it's kind of what I was saying. Like something has to be, for you to make a confirmation, you have to see something in the real life or your current existence. I mean, because how do you know? if you're talking about past lives, you know what I mean? Is that the afterlife or before life? But think about it. It's kind of like what came first, the chicken or the egg, right? It's
I
the
I can
same,
only speculate.
right?
I can only speculate because like I never made it to that point that so many people have spoke of where they saw like a loved one or somebody who is extremely familiar to them, and that person, like so many in the past from the stories that we've heard, said it's not your time, you have to go back. uh, I didn't make it to that point, so I can only speculate what happens after what happened to me, and what I felt and what I experienced, because I didn't hear, like I said, I didn't hear the booming voice. I didn't have the long tunnel. I didn't have. I did have a white kind of experience, like a whiteout almost, but
Mhm.
that was when I was re-entering my body. Um, but after that, it was more of a like it was black. When I came to, my eyes were closed. There was darkness, but there was all of these other colors that were happening from waking up from being unconscious for for however long I was. But it was long enough for all the kids on the playground to evacuate and leave me all by myself. So
Wow,
that's basically like
that's really strange. Really
yeah.
strange.
And and that's when I like after I was put back in my body, I got up and like kind of came to and try to realize what happened, and realized that was the very first time that I'd ever been unconscious.
Mhm.
And I got on my bike and I rode home, and then from there we went to the hospital.
Yeah, so what
And
knocked you unconscious again? I'm sorry, I missed that part. What?
it must have been a fall, or I don't recollect. I don't remember what happened, but I was standing up on top of something, on the playground, and like next thing I know, like I'm waking up, and my everything, my head and my neck and my shoulders and my collarbone and my chest all felt like there, like it was electricity going through me, and pain at the same time, like bad ache and sting. So, but I mean, and that's what I felt when I was physically back in my body. When I was out of my body, it was it was so peaceful. I never felt a peace like that before.
What do you make of this, Travis? I mean, is it? I mean, it just sounds like that transition that we talk about. That one area where you're unconscious, and it's almost like it's as close to death as we get for a period of time, right? I mean, from my understanding, they're still trying to figure out what dreams are like. They're still trying to understand how we need sleep, and when we do sleep, a lot of us dream. Some people, from my understanding, don't have dreams. But what's your explanation, or how are you understanding how this stuff works, Travis?
Well, wow.
Yeah, I know.
Just
It's
both
just
barrels,
throw it all on you.
boom.
Just
It's
throw
like
it all on you, Travis.
um, there's so much that I want to address there because see, I've also had kind of I guess you would call it a near death experience or a death experience.
Mhm.
And this would have been 2000. Oh, let's see, 2006, 2007, around that time period. Um, I had been in New Orleans, and I know that right there. Every near-death experience just start. I was in New Orleans,
In
and
New
yeah,
Orleans.
but Rachel and I were married at the time. We were in New Orleans. It was a conference. We were there. We had flown back. Um, it was a Tuesday night. I was part of an organization called the Southwest Virginia Management Association. So it was business owners, managers, community leaders, and we would meet the first Tuesday of every month at the country club, and we would have dinner. It was a prime rib dinner, an open bar, and that kind of thing. But I actually, um, we were having dinner. I took a call. I went outside, took the call outside, and then I came back in, and I remember sitting down at the table, and my business partner and best friend Charlie McCracken was there, and 2 new employees were at the table with us. And I remember looking at them, and then I remember everything going dark, like, like
Mm.
Timberwolf was saying, he didn't have the tunnel, but I got this tunnel vision. Everything started going dark down to a point. So it was total blackness. And I remember just falling to the side and hitting the floor. And I remember hitting my head on the floor. My head hurt for days.
Mm.
And I was taken to the hospital. The ambulance came. They took me to the ER. I was there. I was severely dehydrated. I was suffering from the flu. I didn't know it. A lot of different physical issues. But what I remember that night was actually, and this is going to sound weird, and it would sound weird on any show except this or Warrior Mode.
Right.
I remember hovering in the room and watching myself, and watching me lay there on the bed, and watching Charlie sit there, watching my parents come in, watching Rachel come in. I saw it all. I watched all of that from above the hospital bed.
Wow.
And I remember them coming in. They were talking about how dehydrated I was. That they had given me 3 liters of fluid, and I still was not coming back to consciousness.
Right.
Still wasn't hydrating, and so I watched all of this unfold, and I remember them saying they were going to have to put a catheter in, and that's when I immediately hyper focused, and I remember
I'm back.
It's like, I can do this. I don't need a catheter. Do not do that to me. But those few moments, and it seemed like forever, and I know it wasn't, but I was unconscious, but I was watching all of this unfold, and I heard conversations, and I heard things that were said, and I know that I wasn't dead, but I was in that middle ground. I was not quite alive, but I wasn't quite dead, and it could have gone either way at that moment. It could have gone either way. And it was, for me, at that point in my life, it was a very sobering realization. That was the point, not long after that I decided I was going to try to pursue a career and a life in the ministry, and that's when I dedicated myself to being a pastor. Was after that moment. Having said that, looking at the afterlife in general and looking at reincarnation, I honestly don't know. I don't know. I really don't. I don't know if we die and then we go to something else, or do we die and do we get recycled and do we come back, and so that we can learn again, so that we can learn, from our mistakes, so we can learn through the process. I know, from a scriptural standpoint, from the biblical standpoint, there is a belief in the afterlife. There is a belief in reincarnation. The disciples would often question Christ, and they even in 2 accounts in the New Testament, they're like, some people say that you are Jeremiah, some say you're Elijah, some say you're another prophet that's returned to us. And Christ turned around and said, but, well, who do you say that I am?
Yeah.
And so, there is that belief that we do come back, that sometimes those spirits come back. I have memories from whenever I was probably 2 years old. And sometimes I have memories of things I know I didn't experience. So where's that from?
Exactly.
Where does that come from?
Exactly. And go ahead, Tim. Mm-hmm.
My earliest recollection was 6 months. And it was when I was dehydrated. I went into severe dehydration 6 months after I was born. And I remember being in a doctor's office, like at a doc, like a room in a doctor's office, and looking to my right as I'm laying naked on an exam table. I remember looking to my right and seeing in sequence from left to right, it was my father, my mother, my grandmother, and then my grandfather. And I distinctly remember my grandfather, my father sitting as far away from each other as possible because my mom and dad had split 3 months after I was born. It's
Hmm.
6 months after I was born, this major thing happened to me, and it was very, very serious. So bad though that they couldn't find a vein. They had to put uh, a needle or catheter in the top of my foot because that's the only place that they could find a vein because all the other veins had collapsed due to
Wow.
lack of hydration. And I remember this to like exactly, and I repeated it to my mother when she was alive. She says that is exactly how everything went down. I said there was a doctor and there was a nurse, and the nurse had the old school, the old style nurse's cap on her
Yeah.
Yep.
head, and I
You don't see
distinctly
them
remember that. And
anymore.
I said I remember stinging pain in my foot, and they said my grandma confirmed. She says yeah, that's when they put the needle in your foot because all the other veins that they looked for had collapsed, and that's the only place that they could find a vein to put fluids into you. And I said, I told them, I said, confirm to me that this is exactly how you were sitting. You know, Pop and Dad were sitting as far away as possible, and you and Mom were sitting right next to each other. And then there was one of those long, thin, like kind of windows that had shades directly, like a where the window is, but it was probably about like 6 feet tall. Just, so nobody can look into the office, but there's light that comes in through a window high up, and
Hmm.
I just exact detail of what I remember. And my dad to this day says there's no way that you can remember that. And I tell him exactly how it goes. My dad, doesn't remember everything these days. I mean, he's 70, 71, but I always remind him what he was wearing that day, and he was wearing the old school vest, like the winter style vest, the
Oh yeah,
sleeveless vest that
the
you
yep,
wear
Yeah.
with the buttons and
yep.
yeah,
But
and he had that wool snap cap,
yeah,
that
I know
kind of
the
like
Oh
one
yeah.
with the wool in the front. I get it. Yeah, I
I
remember.
would
I
tell him
remember.
I would tell him exactly what he's wearing, and I would bring up details like all through my childhood from
True
early
recollection.
on. A true recollection that reminds him that that I had that I'm able to remember to that point. And it's weird that I remember that, but then there's like a big jump. There's like a gap, before I
Mm.
start recollecting again, like major events like a Christmas or, like a Halloween with a particular Halloween costume or something of that nature at a young age. Like I don't remember my mom stitching together and her making this Cookie Monster costume for me to wear for Halloween. I think when I was like 3 or 4 years old. I don't remember that, but she had pictures of it. But I do
Hmm.
remember, being on a table, naked and cold, and crying and having, feeling pain going into my foot. So yeah, that's my
Yep.
earliest recollection.
But I wanna thank both of you before we even go on because we are getting some comments in the chat room about other people their own personal experiences. But I believe you two gentlemen talking about what's happened to you both in your lives, has really brought a couple people out. Bobby Carbos, he explained one of the situations he had, and now Rhonda Brown. First off, she says hello to everybody on the panel, but she says that she has had um, only have about four childhood memories. So Rhonda, if you're still watching, can you explain a little bit more about only having four childhood memories? So, to this day, do you still dream, or you dream, or you can only recall four memories? That obviously, if it's just four, you remember what those memories are. You remember four memories of your childhood, and what age range or what age are you talking about that these memories come from? And I'll give you a little bit of time to respond, and we'll keep having our conversation. But I want to go back to something you said, Timberwolf, and this is something that I'm going to speak for myself as well. I'm not just bringing it up because you said it. But when you said it, it triggers something within myself. And hang tight there, former Minister Travis Short. All right, so heaven and hell. This is my issues. These are my issues with heaven and hell. So the way we're taught and our understanding that heaven is, and jump in and correct me at any point if you guys don't agree or have a explanation for me before I go on. Heaven was supposed to be some place that exists above, right? Somewhere above the planet, okay, maybe in the clouds or beyond that. But then as you start thinking more, you're like, well, so when you get beyond the clouds, it's outer space, right? So in theory and in science, there's an atmosphere, there's an ozone, there's what do you call it? Um, Not the the ozone layer. Once you break past that, you enter the Earth's orbit, which is outer space, considered outer space, right? Um, and then that's, from my understanding, how I understood where heaven is somewhere within those boundaries, right? And then hell is supposed to be deep down inside the earth, right? Where I guess you get through all of Earth's layers, and then there's a core. The Earth's core is down there. So I'm assuming that that's where hell is supposed to be, right? This is what we were taught as children. But if you're like me and people like me, and maybe a little bit, I'll let Tim speak for himself, but a little bit like Tim as well, then it means it doesn't make a lot of sense. So you're telling me that hell is somewhere near Earth's core, where it's hot, because all interpretation of what hell is this fiery place, right, where you burn eternally, and then heaven again is supposed to be upward, somewhere in the sky or past the sky in the clouds. So how do you explain that to a scientific person or somebody that thinks logically? It doesn't really make a tremendous amount of sense. So, you know, a lot of people have gravitated to understanding that everything is was created by a superior being. That to me that makes more sense because I can understand that better. It was we're here, so there was something that created us. Okay, whether you want to call it God or not, I just don't. I can still be a believer in a superior being that might have a name of God or some other name, and not believe in a place called heaven and a place called hell. Does that make sense? Because an interpretation of hell could be the life that you're living now in a certain way, shape, or form. Okay, so I think a lot of this stuff is all interpretation based, other than the things that we can see, taste, and touch. See, taste, and touch. Those things that we can be affirmative about those things because they are really here, and we can sort it out because it's in front of us versus something that we cannot see. So it makes it difficult for us to make sense out of it all. And that's why you have so many different interpretations of what it is, So that's just my take on it. I know I probably opened up a big can of worms. Got to see people commenting, but hey, I'm just, and I've taken a lot of time. Now, mind you, I come from a highly religious family, so this is not something that just came out the blue with me. I've thought about this since I was a youngling, and now, I'll be 47 at the end of this year. So that's my take on it, gentlemen. Feel free to carry on from there.
Well, I don't even know where to begin from there. I mean, I the concept of heaven and hell, and this is coming from someone who trained and actually served as a pastor. When you look historically at Judaism and the Jewish faith, which heavily influenced Christianity, and the Christian faith, which was heavily influenced by Judaism and Greek and Roman mythology. In the Jewish faith, there was no belief in a punishment or a reward. There was simply death. You die. That was it. There was Sheol, the grave.
Mm-hmm.
And then you started getting this concept later in the New Testament of reward and punishment for what you did in life. And at one point there were 10 levels of heaven, and that got condensed to 7, which is why we often refer to being in 7th heaven. That's the highest level of heaven. There are layers of heaven.
Mm-hmm.
There's 1 to 7. And then there were also layers to hell. There were 9 levels of hell in Dante's Inferno. And Dante is the one that really influenced and created this picture, this ideology of hell. And as you descended into hell, actually, you didn't get hotter, you got colder, because the further you descended into hell, the further you got away from God, the further you got away from light. And so therefore it was darkness and ice. So that when you got to the level where Lucifer was, you were encased in ice, as Lucifer was. So there's this.
Is that why we have the terminology, man, it's cold as hell?
Yep.
Yes. Yeah.
That helps. What you just did. See, nobody. Where were you when I was 5, 6 years old, Travis Short?
Well, if you're going to be 49, when you were 5 or 6, I wasn't born yet.
I know.
So,
but I saw. Look, Tim was shaking his head or nodding his head in confirmation. These are the answers that not a lot of people know how to help explain. You know what I mean?
No, this is never discussed in church. You don't go to a church and have these discussions. Nobody talks about these things. But this is, coming from an English background, a literature background, a communication background, a theology background. These are the ways in which, when I sit down on shows like this, Warrior Mode, things like that, I can have these conversations and we can discuss and we can talk about these things.
That's terrible. I mean, and
it is.
It shouldn't be like that, Travis. I mean, come on. You're literally talking about the stuff that can actually help these churches keep their following. All you have to do is just answer. If you have
an honest conversation.
Right, and that's all I'm saying. An honest conversation. That's all most people are asking. And if you're losing people, and they're veering to different,
and they are,
they are, it's because of lack of explanation. And at the end of the day, all we really want is a solid answer that we can believe in and live by. Because remember, we got to carry on. We got to take these teachings and what you're trying to instill in us on these Sundays or whatever day that you're going. And days that you're going, and lead your life and help, raise your family, or just be somebody who implores and embodies what the church is and what your religious denominations and belief system is based upon, and stand firm, not be kind of teetering. And that's what I think we're getting a lot of, is a lot of teetering, a lot of, at this time this works for me, and other times it doesn't. So that's why I'm unbalanced. You know what I mean? And we all go through that. So
we do, and when it comes to these types of conversations, this I can do. I'm an academic theologian. We can have these conversations. You want to talk scripture, you want to talk Bible, you want to compare Bible, Quran to the Talmud, and all, I mean, I'll do that all day long. I'm no Bill Bean. I'm not going to go. I can't go into spiritual warfare because that's not me.
Right.
That's not my calling. That's not what I do.
Well,
Bill does that. Bill does that on a daily basis. But if you want to have an honest conversation about theology, the belief in the afterlife, I'll have that conversation all day long, because I think every culture has its concept of what the afterlife is, and how we get to the afterlife, and what happens in the afterlife. Reward, consequence, pain, pleasure, all of those things are there. And we need that. We do. I mean, we would be miserable human beings if this is the ultimate
Yeah.
of our life. If this is all that there is, if this is all that there is, we would be miserable human beings.
One
And
thing to keep
they
in
would.
mind. No, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No,
Because
you're good. You're good.
what, and I just wanted to say this. One thing to keep in mind. This is something a lot of people tend to forget. Okay, and whether you aren't one of these people that I'm about to mention, I know a lot of people do. Right. A lot of people tend to forget that none of us asked to be here. Not one
Mhm.
single one of us asked to be here. We were born. Now, think about it. In some scenarios, it's like, yeah, you beat, millions of, sperms or whatever, you know what I mean, to be here. So you should be grateful. But but how grateful are some of the ones that that really had terror because they did beat all those other
Yep.
potential life forms. So how great is it? You're born into a situation where you would have been better off if you weren't here. And I can't say that for myself. I don't think you two gentlemen are going to be willing to say that about your lives. But some people's lives are just that bad, depending on where you were born and what situation you were born in. And
Yep.
so we're left here to deal with it once we've been created or brought into existence, right? So, it's really hard for anybody to sit up and talk about anybody else's situation, whether you're pro-life or not, or things of that nature. And that's why it's such a big conversation. And people battle back and forth about what's right and what's not. But before you guys even delve into, if you feel like talking a little bit more about what I just said, I do want to get back with Rhonda. We asked her a question earlier. I asked her a question,
Hmm.
and she said she could recall those four memories of her childhood as she was, I guess, approximately 6 to 8 years old. And she said she had a pretty traumatic childhood, though. That's my point. A pretty traumatic childhood could, if we let her, begin to talk about it was, I'm sure her story will go on and on. You know, I have these conversations with people who went through a lot more than me. I have a real traumatic childhood. Okay, my parents got divorced when I was young. I mean, I don't remember my real dad and my mom ever married. I mean, come on, that's not trauma. I mean, you're talking about real trauma. Real trauma. Some people have been through some really, really serious things and had to overcome those things to lead a productive life. So uh, there's a young person in here, Owen Boswick. Now I know him. I remember when he was, pretty much just a baby. He is essentially family to me. At one point, we were really close, and he had some things he wanted to talk about. I'm going to bring that on the screen here. He's older now. As we seem to age, they seem to age right along with us, of course, such as the flow of life. But he said, mine's vary, but I don't recall a lot of my childhood unless it's brought up by someone else. Like I could tell him stories where we lived on Monumental Ave, and he was just a little kid, and his mom's name's Tammy, and I just I could tell him what kind of kid he was. Not everybody's memories really go back. Like my ability of retention of that time period, those time periods in my life, is not really good. I recall a much younger phase in my life because there was more memorable. I was overseas, everything. I was with my dad, and it was just it was like a dream. When you think about it, it's like, dang, did we really run around Europe doing those things? But so yeah, again, it's like Owen saying there, it takes something to help you recollect a memory that could be recessed or just stored in your memory banks. And he also had a little something to say about, I guess, we're talking heaven and hell. He says heaven and hell, in his opinion, are in another plane of a reality, not anywhere in the universe specifically. And that's kind of where I was going with it. It's I've done this to people, right? And I do this to myself sometimes to really freeze my thoughts, right? Think about this. Something has to create something, right? It takes something has to create whatever else in order for that thing to exist. Well, if you think about the world and the universes, where did it come from? If there was absolutely nothing, think about complete darkness. Okay, for a second, take your minds there. What sparks something out of why are we here? Some If you need something to create something else, then what created? It's like where do we come from, and what created that? It just pops up out of nowhere, thin air, darkness. Think about it. It's really weird, and it used to scare me because it was almost like a thought of like being in the Matrix. Even now, it scares me because where do we come from? And if okay, well, where did that come from? And then it goes on and on, right? Think about it. So it's a lot, man. It's a lot to digest when you really, really delve into the thoughts of existence, afterlife. That's why I believe in something else. There has to be, because explain why we're here. There's no reason for us to be here unless there is a reason for us to be here. So,
Well, and I want to echo, and who was it that brought that up? Is it Owen? Is what you
yeah,
said the name
Owen.
was?
Owen. Yep.
Owen.
Yep. Owen
I want, I
Boswell.
want to, I want to echo what Owen said. The concept of a heaven and a hell, and we often point up and point down, and that's arbitrary.
Mhm.
We've done that. We've created direction. When you talk about the afterlife, there is no up, down, east, west, right, left. I mean, it's transitioning from one plane to another, one existence to another. There is no I die and I go up, you die, you go down. That's not the way that it works. It is transitioning from one plane. We've transitioned from a physical plane to a spiritual plane. So I do echo what Owen is saying. It's not. I mean, we talk about you bury somebody and they they go to heaven, they go to hell. Well, no, their body goes in the ground.
Mhm.
That's
It's true. That's true.
that's logistics. That's just kind of science. Unless they're cremated, but their body goes there. But the spirit, that transition takes place on a spiritual realm. So, and that's why I do believe that we have hauntings, paranormal activity on this realm, because it's not up down. It's a transition, and sometimes that transition is not always so neat and complete. Sometimes there's residual activity. Sometimes that spiritual activity is left in this plane.
Hence the afterlife.
Sometimes,
Mhm.
yes, yes. Sometimes that energy is so strong because we are electricity, we are water, we are energy, we are all of those things. And sometimes that energy, that spirit that we have, that sometimes it's not a complete transition. We leave a little bit of
Leave a little
ourselves
bit behind.
a little bit behind. Yes.
So how do you feel about Bobby's thoughts here? He says he thinks heaven, hell on earth, and excuse me, he thinks heaven, hell, and earth are all present at the time, same time in different dimensions. There are gateways that open and close for various reasons and various times. It's kind of like a little bit of what you're saying. It's just
Hmm.
it's so that's a pretty good hypothesis there. And and these ideals I can understand a little more, because
Hmm.
if you're believing something, we're acknowledging, excuse me, our belief in something. You're not you're not an atheist if atheists don't believe in any of that stuff. I don't believe
Right.
in heaven and hell. I don't believe in God or the devil. But there was an era when we were growing up, and we're all essentially the same, approximately the same age, where we believe in the spirituality of things.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? And maybe not so much high on religion. And that's kind of it started a new era. You've seen it happen. You've seen it. It's kind of veered off into a couple different directions or whatever. But we're spiritual beings. We believe in something. We just don't know exactly what it is, and
Right.
there's a chance that it might vary amongst all of us. I mean,
Hmm.
why does everything have to be the same amongst all of us when we're 7 billion different people, all with different fingerprints and all different signatures, identity signatures that makes us all different. Not even identical twins are exactly the same.
Identical. Right.
So if we're all different, then why should all of us have the same fate, or have the same things happen to us, so to speak, uh, in our existence, or in our post physical form existences as well? So I mean, I think it's a fair question to ask, or a series of questions to ask. So you know,
Well, I think, the the nature, and I had this conversation in a slightly different setting, ironically, earlier today, with my team in London. Somehow our office meeting turned into a theology discussion and theological debate of breaking down religion and things like that. The fact of the matter is, the older I get, and I'm not quite as old as you, Derek. I think I'm older. I think I'm older than. I think I'm older than Timberwolf. I think I'm somewhere right there in the middle. Um, the older I get, the more I really kind of identify myself as Gnostic and not Christian. I'm about
can you
the
explain Gnostic? Pardon the interruption. What is the
no,
definition of Gnostic?
Gnosticism and Gnostic. It's about knowledge and learning, and it's the journey. It's not the destination. It's the process. So it doesn't matter what I learn; it's the road that I take to learn it.
Right. I understand.
So I find myself much more intrigued by the process of learning than I do about what I'm learning. It's that it's conversations like this. I'm much more engaged by this than I am by what the outcome of this is actually going to be. It's
Right.
the dialogue, it's the discussion,
Yes.
it's the debate, it's that whole process. So I find myself, the older I get, being much more concerned with the stories that I'm told and that I tell and that I live, and more than I am of what those stories actually end up telling at
Really
the end.
telling at the end. It's
Yeah, it's all about the experience,
yeah.
and I think when it comes to the idea of heaven and hell and the afterlife, I think the older I get, the more that really is what it's about. It's about understanding that I'm not going to know. I don't know where heaven is. I don't know where hell is. I don't know what heaven is. I don't know what hell is. But the process, the learning, the experiences, the trying to be a better person, that's actually what's more important.
Well, so do you think it matters at all then? So basically what you're saying, well, I'm just trying to surmise, right? So I agree with you, by the way. But so who are we? Are we held? Are going to be held responsible for the knowing or lack thereof? So what I'm saying, and the answer in some denominations is yes. If you don't seek God at some point, and learn and be cleansed of your sins and things of that nature, then you're supposed to be going to hell, right? And that pretty much how that works. So what I'm saying is, um, if I don't know, all right, and I don't reach out for the information, am I still do I is there still a place for me, a good place for me in the afterlife? And it's like, whether I'm a good person or not, if I haven't reached out and given myself to God. And yeah, you know what you know where I'm going at with this. So
I do.
it's tough. It's tough.
It is, and especially when you balance what we were raised with what we kind of know internally, inherently.
Mhm.
And for me, and I had this conversation today, if you break down New Testament Christian theology and you take Paul out of it, you take all of the writings of Paul out of it, it really boils down to love God, love your neighbor, love yourself. Those are the three tenets that Jesus of Nazareth talked about. You
Right.
love God, you love yourself, you love your neighbor. You take care of those around you, take care of the poor, take care of the needy, take care of the widows, take care of the orphans. You do right by mankind, and whatever you refer to as God, ever how you if he's a gray bearded man in the sky, if he's a greater higher, whatever, you love and respect him. Those three tenets, if you do those three things, then you should be aces. You should be good. Doesn't
Yeah.
matter if you go to church, doesn't matter if you give money, doesn't matter what you do outside of those three basic tenets of faith.
I'm gonna jump in the chat room real quick, and then I'm gonna shift it over there to Timberwolf because I see Tim's he's over there mulling on something. I'm trying to figure out what it is. He's he, I know you're just listening to conversation right now, Timberwolf. But remember, I know you. There's something going on in that brain up there. So yeah, first of all, Rhonda, and thanks again for watching the show. Everybody that's watching the show right now, we really appreciate you guys. Our show's picking up here. People seem to enjoy it. We just try to bring you guys some content. We are going to have structured shows like this a little bit more, and try to week to week, give you guys something to look forward to, a conversation based, kind of like the afterlife, what we're talking about now. We'll have something different for you guys next week, of course. But Rhonda Brown says it's the soul that lives on, and obviously, if you believe that, then you believe in a soul. Not everybody believes in that stuff. Energy based stuff, and a lot of people just think we're just flesh and bone, and after you die, that's it. And you can hear us having a conversation about we don't really all think that, and especially evidently on this panel, we believe there's more to it. And then also Bobby Carbos, and thank you for being older than us, Bobby, because I don't always want to be the oldest. There was a time I wasn't always the oldest, but now it seems like I'm finding myself usually a little older than everybody else. So Bobby says he's older than us, which is a good thing. That means it's wisdom. It's wisdom. I don't know how many grades you got going, but if you look over at Travis, he's got more than me.
I got a lot.
But so Bobby says the older you get, the less you strive for greatness, and the more you strive for goodness, and the more you strive for goodness, because you desire to go to heaven. And he makes a really good point. That's a good point he's making. It's so and correct me if I'm wrong, Bobby, but from that statement, it seems like you're saying, in the beginning, it was you just wanted to be great. And I remembered, I actually got 360 degrees. Can't see it because, it's faded, tatted on my hand, because when I was younger, that's a perfect circle, 360 degrees. I just wanted to be perfect. There was something about being the best and never making mistakes and all that. And as I got older, I realized, man, all that stuff is overrated, man. Trying to be perfect. I like, you remember you and I were talking about it one show, Travis. We were talking about, knowing that you when you make mistakes, it humbles you, and you almost want to make mistakes sometimes because you don't want people to think that you're always trying to be perfect or you think that you're perfect, although be it you've never said it. Think about it, Travis. You never once told anybody, hey, I'm perfect. I'm the best at what I do. Nobody's better than me. And that's a lot of times, for some reason, I think people think that I think that about
Yep.
myself. And I don't. I don't. And how could they accuse me of thinking like that when they've never heard me say it. I don't even talk. That's not even my demeanor. I don't talk like that. But because how I carry myself, and it's like, oh
Yep.
yeah, whatever. And same thing with you, and that's what I mean. So I think what that's what Bobby's trying to say. You want it to be so great, but then the older you get, the more you strive. Just for if your heart was genuine and you're not a Ted Bundy or a Jeffrey Dahmer, and you just like killing people just for the heck of it, then you you really start striving just to be a good person and do good things, and reap what you sow and pay it forward and all that good stuff. You know what I mean? So that's where I'm at in life now. So I just wanted to acknowledge that, Bobby. That was a good statement. And then so we also have Rhonda. Rhonda's still with us. She says, but didn't God say we have to accept Jesus Christ as our Savior? Um, that would be more of a question for Travis Short there. And,
So,
and how do you answer that? Were you? I don't think you were around when that so-called conversation took place, Travis. But you know what I mean.
the answer to that question is the written Bible does state that. Um, I think again we're talking about personal choice. We're talking
Right.
about personal decisions. Um, and this is why I'm not.
Right. I know. I know.
I'm not an act.
It's,
No, I'm not an actor. No, but I had this
it's
conversation
very
today.
rare.
This is why,
Free
because I find it hard to stand in front of someone who is, let's say, Native American,
Mhm.
and tell them they have to accept Jesus Christ into their life when the Native American Aboriginal people are much more spiritual than we as white men have ever been. They're much more in tune with God, nature, and everything than religion is. So I have a hard time doing that. I have a hard time standing in front of someone who is Islamic, Muslim, Middle Eastern, and telling them they have to accept someone that is not part of their belief system.
Yeah.
I think belief systems are, I think, what are central and are at the core. What do you believe? Do you believe in
Right.
good or do you believe in bad?
Right.
If you believe in the good, embrace the good. If you believe in the bad, you believe in the evil, then
Can I jump in right there? And Timberwolf, I see you unmuted yourself. Listen to me. You guys got to understand here. The bad. Think about it. The bad people that are doing bad, they're not. They're not calculating it. They're not saying that they're doing bad. Think about it. No, most of them are doing it in their twisted minds for some kind of reason that they think is worth it and is more good than bad. They have diluted their thoughts to make them believe that what they're doing is right. No, I don't think there's many people, and I could be wrong. Listen. This is open conversation. This is the Speak Your Mind show. I get it. So I'm speaking my mind. I'm telling you, gentlemen, those evildoers, they're not saying, yeah, I'm going out there and I'm doing evil. No, they're saying they're doing just and right causes for the good of whatever they believe in. They're not,
more
you get my point.
more
Good,
evil has been done in the name of God than
thank you.
good has been done.
Thank you. So that's all I'm saying.
I,
So how,
and I say that from a place of clarity. We in this country have done more wrong to the Native Americans, to the African Americans, to the Asian Americans. We have done more wrong against them in the name of a white God who is not white. He's not. and race shouldn't even come into play, but it always has
But it
been.
always, and it always
It's
does.
always been manipulated from a racial standpoint. More wrong has been done than good ever. We could not even begin to make up the wrong by doing good.
Right. I mean, I'm sorry. I know the conversation has shifted, but hey, listen, yeah, when we have these conversations, I'm not going to let nothing, and nor will you, Travis. I mean, we're not going to just let um, simple ideology of understanding the just pass by the wayside. We're not going to do that. And just to kind of shift gears a little bit here, um, so we obviously have a younger and a somewhat older audience, because I know Owen can't be, but about the same age as my son. He's probably, I don't know, probably 23 now, 23 at tops. And then but we do have a couple older people here. Rhonda Brown, thank you for watching. She's 59. And Bobby, who's he jumps in on a few of our shows. And big shouts out to him. Also has involvement with the Real Brothers, obviously from the Necropolis Project and all. He's 63. So, we're what the topics that we're discussing obviously are attracting, an audience that, a seasoned audience. And we appreciate you guys for watching our show. And hello, um, am I saying it? Marina, is this somebody Travis? She says, hey. Um,
Don't know.
okay. Well, anyway, welcome to the show.
What's her name?
I'm looking at, you see it on the screen there. Marina or my Marina, depending on how it's pronounced. I'm not sure, but I'm just happy to have her on the show. And feel free to share your experiences, Marina. If there's anything that, our current topic, we're talking about the afterlife, and do you believe in it? And if so, have you had any experiences that you'd like to discuss on, maybe what you've gone through that you'd like the audience to know about? So I haven't. Timberwolf is in the middle there. Timberwolf and Travis Short, they have, and they're pretty vivid in their recall of what took place to them. And when you have, to me, if you have experiences like that, then I mean, you're talking about something you'll never forget, and to me, it just changes your life, and for the rest of your life. So, bring Travis back, and
There
Travis will be back. There we go. You're back. But yeah. So just moving along here, and listen. It, as just a brief disclaimer to the show, you know, the views of all of us here are our own separate views. Okay, we're not trying to push our perspective on anybody. If you don't like what's being said, you can always leave your comments, as long as it's respectful, in the comment section, and we'll discuss it, because it's an open platform for everybody to just speak their mind. Just speak your mind, and that's hence the name of the show. So. And let's see here. Okay, so she watches us on the Warrior Mode show. So I watch you guys on Bill Bean's show. That's where Marina's from, Travis.
Okay.
So, and sorry for not having a show last night. And if you
hopefully next weekend we'll be back in the saddle, all four of the horsemen.
Yeah, so we'll be back. So thanks, and this is our transition show with our new acquisition in Tim Timberwolf Ladard there, and we carry on. We like to piggyback off the Warrior Mode show, and but of course we didn't have one last night. So and Rhonda's got something else she'd like to say, and Rhonda's also from the Warrior Mode show. She's a viewer of our Warrior Mode show, as she states there. She says she's never missed a Warrior Mode show. Actually, I think that's the first time we didn't have. Is that the first time we actually didn't have a show, Travis? For me, it is.
Since I've been doing it, yes, that's the first time. Um, Now I haven't done it, but Bill and Kev have always done it, or Bill, you and Kev have always done it. But yeah, that's the first time.
Right. And
Um,
yeah, go ahead, Travis.
no, I was gonna say, for us, for Kev Baker to not do a show, something had to be
Yeah.
wrong. So
And,
our thoughts and prayers are with Kev.
yeah.
He's ill, and we are praying for a miracle for Kev.
Yes. And they are okay. Rhonda's asking about their health. They are okay. Um, we we will get an update on how Kev's doing.
Yes,
He did respond.
he
He
did.
did respond. So I think it just needs a
He's
break. I just think
he
it just needs
does.
to be
I
honest.
mean, that man does a radio show every night, 7 days a week. That
Yes.
man does a radio show. He's due for an off day and some downtime.
Yes. And Bobby's got a question for you, Tim. Bobby asks, Tim, how do you feel about angelic presences, aka guardian angels?
Not opposed to the concept, but again, I'm not I'm not on the course of looking at things from a religious standpoint. From like the term angelic and root word angels. I I'm not looking at it as from a religious standpoint, because we always deem the terms angels, a soul, um, and a lot of time, a lot of how people describe the afterlife as being something that is described when, well, you hear on Sunday when you go to church. You hear of heaven or you hear of hell. I believe that there is a positive energy that will watch over you and stay with you for a certain amount of time. And like Travis and Derek have talked about before, there's a negative energy that can, walk with you for a while, cause havoc in your life, feed off of you, whatever it may be. But I think there's a distinct possibility that, as you would call, an angel or an angelic presence, and a positive energy source that steers you in the right direction when when it's needed. If you're open to the possibility of them helping you, and it can come in many forms. It can come in just in the sense of keeping you calm while like somebody kind of agitated you, and you exuded a confident calm that you're not normally used to
Mhm.
exuding. Or it could be something you could view it something as simple as, well, I'm running late for work and I could really use a whole bunch of green lights right now.
Yeah.
And your quote guardian angel makes all the lights green for you. But that could just be you projecting a particular thought, and a positive thought at that. So positive thinking, negative thinking, I think, allows for either side to it kind of puts out a beacon. There's like a beacon that goes off when you're putting out positive energy, or if you're exuding negative energy, a beacon kind of goes off, and then that it leaves like kind of like a trail, or like a trail of breadcrumbs for that positive or negative energy to find its way to you to try and either help or hurt.
Yeah, I think that was an awesome explanation. I hope Bobby Tim was able to explain that. I tell you what, I was listening to you, Tim. I was like, thank you, because you're right. I love your example about like even just asking for something to happen. I think that's that's where we start believing or feeling something happening. Like and this is why I always tell people I feel like I have special powers and gifts, because I talk things into existence and they happen. I mean, you know, on a quite consistent basis. So,
Man down.
Yep.
man down, Travis. That's my man, Travis. Right on cue, baby.
Man, I'm telling
Hey,
you,
I loved it last week when you was talking about Frankenstein and zombies, and you stuck your arms. You was like, because they always want to be led. You knocked your
crap. I need a
Bobby's
longer. I need a longer cord for the headset. Every time I turn, it goes. And Cash was freaking out in the floor, and I'm like trying to.
Hey,
We're all
Travis.
good. We're all good.
Bobby Carpo says sniper.
And right. Oh, down.
Sniper. It happened so quick, man. It was just like, phew. You're right, Bobby. That is a sniper took place there. But real quick here,
we're releasing too much information. This is what happens.
too much information. Somebody was like,
we're getting
"You
close.
getting
That's right.
close. We're getting close. We're getting close." And Tim's exactly right. So, hey, Santa says hi, everybody. You know what I mean? Oh, I said hi to Santa right there. But here we go. There we go. Santa says Santa. Go ahead, Tim.
See you tomorrow, sir. I'll see you tomorrow morning.
Yep. Santa Dave says hello. Um, and Bobby's not done. Bobby, I appreciate your questions, man. It's really helping. Heck, your questions are helping me get some answers. And I'm just like an audience member at a certain point when these guys start talking. So he says he likes the energy concept. Do you think these energy sources are past relatives or just random spirits caught in our space and time? I think that's for you, Tim.
They can be. I believe it wholeheartedly that there is a residual relative presence that is either always there, or maybe it's like a lifeline for like in the afterlife, that there's always like this trailing attachment, which is kind of like a lifeline that is, or a cord that's being kind of trail behind everybody, and relatives that have passed on, people from your lineage take turns, basically following that silver cord all the way down to you, your life, like that lifeline that you have, and follows you for a little while. Basically, kind of like diving down to a wreckage, following a line down to a wreckage, and you stay with it for a little while. I think that in the afterlife, the possibility wherever the relatives are, whatever realm that they are in, they follow a residual trail back to us, to watch over us for a particular duration of time. And it may not be the same person every time. It may be an aunt, it may be an uncle, maybe a parent, it may be a fifth distance cousin, but it was their turn to go and look in on the persons that are still here and that are still going to school here.
Yeah, I think that's feasible to me. So I'm a hypothetic guy. I'm theoretic when we talk about these things. I like the whole concept. To be able to put a concept together that makes sense is it helps more versus can't really deduce in its entirety. Now, granted, look, I know how I said that, and essentially how that a lot of things don't have an answer, and you've actually heard people say, some questions don't have a complete answer. Some things are just the way they are, and we're always looking, because we're people, we're always looking for an explanation, right? We need an answer, a definitive one, not one that you're just like, oh well, it just is that way. And that's what I used to get a lot. Again, I wish I had a Travis Short when I was younger who could have gave me a real answer, somebody that that made sense, and I could say, you know what, Dad, that makes sense. Finally, somebody that can answer my question. Well, there's a lot of people running around with incomplete answers, and their lives are incomplete. Think about it; they're just incomplete. They're just not fully happy. They're still searching for happiness. What makes you happy? What's going to make me happy? And the sad part is you're older in life. A lot of people are older, still going through that. It's different when you're younger because that limbo space is like, well, I'm young. Do I want to go to college? I'm just trying to figure out what I want to do with my life. And then time starts passing, right, gentlemen? It's like,
Yep.
Man, it's just what all of a sudden you're like in your 20s, and for some reason, remember, oh, I'm getting old now. I'm 22. I'm old. I hear all these young people, I'm 30. 30. I wish 30. 30. That was that age where, depending on what you wanted to do, you remember, Travis, if you wanted to
I
be
do.
into sports, or you wanted to something that you really need to utilize your body for, well, guess what, you were old.
You do it.
Gosh darn it. You
Yep.
could do it, but you started getting old. These guys that have been drafted into these NBAs, these NFLs, these MLBs, they're 17, 18, 19, you
Yep.
know, and then by the time they get 25, 26, 27, they're considered old. Oh, this is a veteran. He's older. So I get it. Don't get me wrong. I understand how difficult that could be when you start understanding that presence of
Yep.
age and time based on what you want to do in life. But at the end of the day, life goes on. You can't just, if you didn't make it in one career or something of that nature, then you had to move on. That's why you can't just put all what they say, chickens in one basket. You can't do that. You have to be able to expand your horizons, right? And
Yep.
have kind of a few things that you're trying to accomplish in life. And that's what I did. Um, that's what I did. I mean, I had to. I traveled a lot. I was never stable. When I got stable, I said, all right, yes, I want to be in the entertainment world. And look, I'm still in the entertainment world. Yes, I want to have a decent job to support my family. I have that. And it hasn't stopped. But it wasn't that easy. And please, ladies and gentlemen, I'm not trying to make it seem like it was that easy, because it wasn't. I'm just saying that what is easy, again, I go back to, we were put here, right? Where you were born. And nobody said, hey, look, man, you're like Travis Short. Your life is going to be so easy, man. You ain't gonna have nothing to worry about, my friend. It's gonna go smooth. You're gonna make lots of money. You're gonna marry the woman of your dreams, and you're gonna have lots of cars and a big old mansion. Nobody. I guarantee you, no, not one person promised you that. And I don't even know if I'm right or not. I guarantee you, not one person promised you that. It was always, look, life is tough. You got to get out there. You got to earn it. You got to work. All that spiel and jargon. But guess what? Unless you were born into a tremendous amount of money, everybody had to do the same thing.
Yep.
So anyway, I'm sorry I went on my little rant there, but it's all true statements and all. Hey, but look, gentlemen, I wanted to bring in something real quick and ask your opinions on how you think this is going to play out as far as attracting an audience for this particular movie. And you guys kind of already know where I'm going at with it, I'm sure. But it's called Ghostbusters Afterlife. It's due to come out this year. Is it coming out this year?
It's supposed to.
But you gentlemen said this movie's actually pretty old. It's already been shot like for a couple of years, and they're just sitting on it.
Yeah, it was supposed to come out last summer.
How long have you been here?
I don't think this. Oh, I'm this the wrong movie.
Well, you're doing the trailer for Loki.
This is Loki.
You'll catch up.
How ironic that I click on Loki here. So, let me pause this real quick. Timberwolf, you had said something about, I don't know if it was you or Tim or you, Travis, about maybe there's a collection, because Loki's a god, right? He's Zeus's, one of Zeus's sons, right? Along with Thor. Am I right about that?
One of Odin's sons. Yep.
Odin's sons.
Odin,
Not
yep.
okay. So it's
But Odin, Zeus. So again, you're going back to. In my mind, you're going back to you're splitting hairs, as my grandmother used to say. You're splitting hairs on a flea's ass.
it's the pagan era. So my wife is she's
Yep.
a Viking. She's from Iceland. So they used to believe in the gods, or
And the
the
Odin,
mythology.
Thor, yeah, Zeus, all of those gods. I mean, see, I'm actually of the mindset that there's no such thing as polytheism, a belief in multiple gods. I think there is simply language that allows us to encapsulate and express belief in a higher power.
The Vikings damn near took over probably half of Europe believing in these gods and
Hmm.
worshiping these gods. Okay, then because I watch a lot of these Viking movies, by the way, I'm a big I'm a big fan. Then all of a sudden, as they started getting a little closer to Christianity, and
Hmm.
actually, I think they started losing some battles because the I guess how should I say it, the English started figuring out how to defeat them,
Yes.
and yes, and that ultimately changes everything once you start losing, because now all of a sudden you think it's time for you to maybe take on a different belief, because the way these movies depicted it, some of these series is, if this happens, then my God didn't come through for me, so it must be a higher God there. Do you understand? And instead of
Yep.
just being outwitted, maybe outwitted, little outsmarted on the battlefield, they looked at it differently. They looked at it as more, because um, Odin didn't come through for me in this great battle that was predicted that we would win. Maybe we need to start, paying a little bit more attention to the Christian beliefs. So
Hmm.
I just find some of that stuff, and just think about what I said for a minute. It's it's a little strange, right? We get so caught up in these things, so caught up in what we believe, and I just think that it's a little bit of a weakness, and it's been showed to be a weakness, and I think that's why I carry my life the way I do. It's you have to welcome other things. There's people out there. Oh, no way in the world! I'm not standing for this. I'm not. You get that out of my house. That's sacrilegious. This is watch your tongue kind of thing. And I just think nowadays we do have to be more open. Okay, it's a tough place, right? How much do you accept? How much do all this new alternate stuff and ways of living? How much are you going to be willing to accept, Travis?
Me, I'm accepting of everything,
Everything?
but that's me. Well, I'm accepting of, you know, I'm not accepting. Let me put it this way: the only thing I'm intolerant of is intolerance.
I, I knew you pull it out, and it's true.
That's that's where I draw the line. Um, you know, I'm fine. You do you. You live your life. You do what you go your road. You go your path. You live your life. You do what you, whether that's religious, sexual, romantic. I don't care. I'm
Right,
not going to judge you
right, right.
unless you start becoming an intolerant, bigoted,
Mhm.
entitled jerk. Then I have a problem.
Right. I mean, I'm with you. I just think that it takes a lot of people to make the world go round. And I've said this time and time again. I talk to people about this, and this comes up in conversation. For me, I tell people all the time, hey, when they're complaining about something, my guys at work, oh, that foreman, his attitude was terrible, man.
Yep.
He made me feel, less of this and less of that, and and I try to explain, hey, look, These guys are going through a lot. They're frustrated. They got superintendents down their throat. They're behind on schedule. They got 30, 40 guys that they got to keep working. And I said, you just got to understand, just be patient. I'm just giving you an example of how I am. If I'm
Hmm.
teaching this and preaching this, then I have to lead by example. This is
Yes.
me at all times. I don't think everybody's going to be easy to deal with at all times. I don't, I know there's going to be the guy that flicks me off on the road. I know there's going to be somebody that cuts me off on the road. I understand that there's going to be people who are not um, like I claim to be. Yeah, do you understand what I'm saying? So,
Hmm.
what you say, tolerable, right? I'm just giving
Yep.
you an example of what you said. You have to be. Look at what you run. You're gonna have guys, in your organization who they're not they're not feeling that great that day.
Hmm.
You don't know what happened at
There's going
home.
to be days I don't feel that great.
Right, right,
There's going to be days I'm not in the mood. There's going to be days I don't want to put up with their crap or the community's crap or the corporation's crap. But you have to be understanding to a degree
right.
of what's going on.
Yeah, and that's all I'm saying. And I actually found the video I was looking for. I'll bring this. Oops, I'll bring this back, gentlemen here, because I want you guys to actually just give me an opinion. And I'm bringing this video up for a reason. Um, so this is the trailer for the block for the excuse me um, Ghostbusters movie. Now I'm I'm bringing it up because do you guys actually believe in this style ghosts? I mean, ghosts that you can actually capture using these kind of devices. And I mean, I know it's far fetched, and I just want to briefly hear what you feel. I mean, you go, Tim. You start with this one. Ghostbusters. They're trying they've created a new one, which has nothing to do. Well, seems like it has nothing to do with the old ones, but
No, it does, but
I uh, I I would say that this is this is uh this is Hollywood. That there isn't really getting a physical manifestation of something that's going to attack you. That manifestation is usually going to be invisible. Anytime anybody has had some kind of ghostly encounter where scratches were involved, somebody was pushed, somebody was thrown, whatever it may be, any footage that was ever, caught of the event didn't show whether it be on a um, whether it be on a standard like filmed plane, a standard way of filming, or if it was filmed with infrared. There's
hmm
nothing that is ever normally like standing there that is physically doing this to them. There may be some kind of residual trace of energy that's there that may be picked up by somebody's technology that they're using, but I don't believe that there is like a possibility of capturing a ghost or maybe a floating demon. Now, that's not to say that all ghosts are of this realm. Think of ghosts of a different realm too, ghosts of a different dimension. Because if you believe in any kind of like hardcore like physics and science, and you would believe that there are multiple dimensions up, down, left, right, every direction. So there is you and I and Travis having this conversation in multiple dimensions all at the same
yeah,
time. Just the tiniest little thing is off. Like for instance, for example, in one dimension over, my hair is pulled back,
yeah,
mm,
and it's just that difference right there. Or
yeah.
the tiniest little thing is, when I did this, instead of doing this, my finger was up right there, or there, or there, or there, or there. It's all the different possibilities.
Yeah,
So if there's all
possibility.
those different possibilities, there's the possibilities of the ghosts and the energies from other dimensions transcending those dimensions and making their appearance here. Some may be stronger, some may be weaker.
Yeah, I can buy that. I just think, I don't. Again, I mean, you hear me talk about it all the time. I'm not putting nothing past. I think anything theoretic, anything that you can create a concept, a concept that actually makes sense. If they're energies, why can't you capture the energies in some kind of device that's built to capture it? I mean,
Mhm.
I just think that I don't put nothing past humanity. My company slogan for Strowman Entertainment is on my cards, my business cards is believe in the future. And I always keep that because as technology progresses, anything's possible. Remember, gentlemen, you know, even though it didn't fully come to fruition, the technology's out there. When we were younger, this point in time,
So,
these years, 2021 to 2019, 2020,
Mhm.
there was depictions of flying cars, all metallic building civilizations, and then some. Correct. So
Mhm.
that stuff exists. They've discovered that you got Tesla out there with these Tesla coils that all running purely off of electricity. I mean, there's a lot of things that can be done that you can't just throw out there because you're
Mhm.
talking about a remodification of everything. The roads, tires will essentially become not non-existent because I believe and I think they'll make them more of a convertible type thing, an optional type thing. But you're talking about putting vehicles in the air and having to create traffic lanes in the sky. There's a lot of things that has to happen before you can just make those transitions. So I'm only going there, gentlemen, because this is how I believe. This is how my mind clicks and thinks every day, knowing. I mean, come on now, put yourselves, okay, our children, all right, we all have kids. You got children, right, Tim? Do you have any children, Tim?
yes,
Do you
yes,
do you have it? You do. Okay,
yes.
50, 60 years from now, what's what's the world going to be like? What's the United States going to be like? You know, what's Iceland going to be like? What's Europe? Germany, Spain. What are those places going to be like with technology? What's Far East Asia going to be like? And a lot of these people are just waiting to unveil some of this technology. So I just wanted to go there real quick because I don't like to sell humanity short. I'm one of those people that think that we are not going anywhere anytime soon, no matter how rough things look. And I constantly support that. Travis, you hear me talk about it a lot. I believe in humanity, and I'm not willing to give up on it anytime soon. But back to the chat room, real quick here. Bobby says there is but one supreme being, okay, and they call him Johnny Lang. And shouts out to Johnny Lang tonight. He had to work. I told him I'd give him a big shout out. I called him to see if he wanted to join the show, but he called in. He got called in, excuse me, for an emergency shift at the Muddy Beaver tonight. So, and then got another comment here from Bobby. Bobby, man, this is cool. Appreciate you again, Bobby. We are gonna shut the show down here soon. I want to get those guys out of here. I know it's getting late, but he says on a drug raid, my partner and I were pushed past one door to the next. I asked him later why he pushed me. He asked me why I pulled him. If we had gone by our standard protocol, we would have probably been shot dead. The extra 10 to 15 seconds stopped the bad guy from ambushing us as we breached the door. He was coming up with the rifle. So that sounds like the Guardian Angels style
Mhm.
thing taking place there. Um, and I notice a lot of things like that happening too. Do you ever wonder? Yeah, so I have a terrible hypothetic imagination, and I don't know. I know some people that do it, but I'm speaking to you, Tim, and you now, Travis. I have a way of always thinking the worst. Do you ever notice when things could really go really bad, but they don't? All the sharp objects in your kitchen or on the floor. The kids are playing. They get rough. One of them falls down. You ever wonder why all those sharp objects, nothing ever really catastrophic happens? I mean, why
Yep.
doesn't it happen more? It happens. Oh, the kid gets poked in the eye, but usually it's averted, right? Isn't that kind of
Hmm.
strange?
It
Like,
is.
think about it. The chances of it happening are much greater than it not happening, but it generally doesn't happen. And I just think that's the flow of the universe. It's not meant to happen, so it's averted by whatever beings that we're talking about, or just the fact that it's not supposed to happen. And it's tough to think that way. It's tough to say that. And you guys know me well, and I always say one of my most common things is it's um, prototypical, but everything happens for a reason. And the word I'm looking for, it's just a standard phrase for me, because I really believe that even the worst things that happen are supposed to happen for a reason. And that's sad, right? Because some really bad stuff happens, but it's just meant to be that way. It's just meant to be that way. And I can say that now, gentlemen. And I always think, my deepest loved ones, if something were to happen to them, would I still say that? And at the end of the day, I ask myself that every day, just about. I still would have to say yes. At first, I'll throw a fit, big fit, and go crazy almost. But then as I settle down, I think I'll just have to accept the fact that things happen. I mean, I'll go back to Timberwolf. Tim, you've been through some stuff, man, in the last few, I don't know, let's say year and a half. And I mean, what do you credit, everything that you've been going through? I mean, what do you say? Do you tell yourself, oh, I did something, I'm a bad person. I'm I'm suffering from something that happened during my family tree, or something in the afterlife? Or what are you saying? What do you say to yourself when bad things happen to you? Do you say, oh, it's just meant to happen, man? I mean, that's part of life.
No, not really. I do kind of get down about it because I'll say why me, but not necessarily
Mm-hmm.
like out loud. On the inside, I'll say, well, Murphy's Law, this happened again, or
Mm-hmm.
like it's just like any other time, just something negative, just something waiting for the other shoe to drop. That kind of that mentality has prevailed over the years, in many situations, over either being cool headed, even headed, or calm, or even the when bad things happen, you just you don't chalk it up to like it's meant to be that way.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's oftentimes there's that the thing that happened could have been prevented either by
Mm-hmm.
the person who's getting down about it, or by other persons. And it seems like often there's other people have gone out of their way to try and make things harder for you. Many
Right.
times it could be driving down the road, it could be standing in line trying to get your groceries done,
Mm-hmm.
it could be trying to get your point across to somebody on the phone regarding your insurance, whether it be
Yeah.
health or life.
We lost him there. He was definitely hitting home on some points. But while we're waiting for him to come back, Bobby has made another comment. He said, and appreciate you once again, Bobby. Before we cut out of here, but he says, "Great show, guys. Love being a small part of it. Supreme Being here is telling me to take out the trash, and that's cool. You better do that, because they only come a couple times a week. You don't want that stuff to pile up there, Bobby." And he said, "Looking forward to meeting each and every one of us soon." And likewise, Bobby, you have a good night, and thanks again for watching the show, my friend. All right. And so, Travis, I
Yeah,
don't know if Tim's going to jump back in here. It was a really good show.
was.
I really enjoyed it. Yeah, it was I think it was one of our better shows. Probably one of our most viewed shows to date. But I remember last week's show, we asked the question, do we think zombies really exist? And
Right.
just to backtrack a little bit, I did a little bit of homework, and I found out that yes, they do. And I want to show you actually a real zombie here. And oh my god, what the heck is? Oh my god, is it me? Oh my goodness.
That's you and
I
Necropolis, right?
Necropolis. Oh my god.
Necropolis, yeah.
See, I told you guys. I knew they existed. Jeez. Looks like I just got finished eating something there. I got a couple gouges on my forehead there. And hey, so thanks to, big shots out there to the Real Brothers, Eric Jones on the makeup there. He's a man of many talents, wears many hats on set. Here's just a couple little images there. I'm once again making a
Yep.
little face there, trying to fit into my role. Again, it was a nice production, and I can't wait for that to come out. Now, Eric again, he's a makeup artist. There you can see him creating a bite mark, which looks pretty official, at least from that distance. There, he's good. That's him, as you can see there, doing the makeup. So he's pretty good. He did everybody's makeup on set, and there's a young fella there who was also one of the lurkers. So the answer is yes, ladies and gentlemen. Zombies do
Do
exist,
exist.
even if they're just made up to be zombies or lurkers. But I'm not going to keep you no longer. It's been a great show. It's getting late. We're pushing the 10 o'clock hour. It's always a pleasure to have the Travis Short on the show. Love you, my friend.
Love you, brother.
It looks like people don't want the show to end, but it has to end. But we will be back
Next Monday. Next Monday, yes.
next Monday. We will be back. Hopefully, it'll be off the heels of another great Warrior Mode show, which I'm pretty sure everybody's excited about having return after missing last night. But Travis, I'm gonna let you get out of here. Enjoy, hang some time, hang out
You
with Cash and all.
Thank you, brother. Thank you. And I will talk to you very soon.
Yep. Have a great night. See ya.
Okay, man. Bye.
Wow, what a show! I tell you, you never know what you're gonna get out of a Speak Your Mind Paramedia activity show. I can see a couple people still watching. Hate to close it out, but we got to carry on with life here, and I'm going to go spend some time with the family. Um, Everybody who commented, appreciate you. Bobby, Owen, it was good to see you in there. Um, Marina, if I forgot your name, please forgive me. Um, Rhonda Brown, um, thanks again for watching the show. Please tune in next Monday for another episode. Our topic has yet to be decided, but we're always going to have some interesting and revealing and something that you can connect with and want to be a part of and join in the conversation. Until next Monday, y'all have a great Monday. Have a good rest of your week, and we are out.